Hello everyone, this is Brad Allen and welcome to Outdoor Asylum. We are recording and videoing here at the Cache River Studios, the Elite Duck Call Shop. Here as always with producer Jake Seipert. Jake, how's it going?
Hello, good. How are y'all doing?
We're doing well, Before I announce our guest or introduce our guest, I want to tell you about something really interesting that we're doing here at Elite Duck Calls. We just started making some new calls we're going to call our Heritage Series, and we got a video too that's out there where Jake and I went out to Cache River and just picking up some freshwater mussel shells that are out there. We weren't harvesting any of the mussels, but just picking up some of the shells that were on the bank. And we've started doing some of that inlaying it into some duck calls, so it's pretty cool. You guys check that on our website at elitecalls.net or give us a call at 501-207-2994 if you got any questions about that. Now, as far as our distinguished guest this morning, Tyler Lawrence is the Director of Events and Programming with the Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation. Tyler, thanks for being with us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
How you what you been up to lately? How you dealing with this extreme Arkansas heat we've been dealing with?
Oh, it's been fantastic outside. As soon as you step out, get the good sweat marks everywhere around. But man, it's been tough. Also with the COVID and everything else going on, it's some crazy times we're living in right now.
Amen to that. It's kind of like we're in an alternate universe, except for the heat. We're looking forward to this about every year about this time. Luckily, we got a little bit of a cool front coming through, though, so we're getting a little bit of rain, a little bit of relief from it. But, man, it has been tough the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
For sure.
That's right.
For sure. So tell me, we'll get to all the work that you're doing with the Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation, but, man, I know you're an avid duck hunter. How'd it go last year?
Well, I was fortunate enough to kill a few ducks. We've got a cabin up in northeast Arkansas on the Black River in Brookings, Arkansas, and so we've primarily my entire life. I've hunted public land right there on Dave Donaldson WMA, and we really had a decent year last year, and so. I also hunted around Conway and a few other places, went down to South Texas and was trying to get an old cinnamon teal down there.
Did you get one?
No, I saw one the day that I was leaving. So. But, we overall we had a pretty good duck season and, able to get a few of my friends up to the cabin and introduce a few people to the sport of duck hunting.
Yeah. Where were you? You saying South Texas. Where were you hunting there?
That was outside of Three Rivers, Texas.
Okay.
And we've got a good family friend there, Sean DeCinto. He actually lets us come down to his cabin there, and it's really a pretty wild experience with him. We get out on an airboat, which I guess 2 years ago was my first experience down there hunting. And my main goal in the past 2 years has been to get a cinnamon teal. Still haven't gotten one, but I will. But going out there and getting on that airboat, riding out and seeing the eyes of the gators in the morning, it's really a neat experience.
Yeah, I got to do some of that a few years ago. I went out with a good friend of mine, Paul Brown, who was doing some speckled trout guiding out there, and he did some duck guiding too. So we were actually hunting on the coast around Rockport, right outside of Corpus Christi.
Okay.
Didn't see any cinnamons, but the thing that amazed me out there was the pintails. Did you see a lot of man?
We did.
That's not the same pintail we're chasing here in Arkansas. I mean, the way they responded to the whistle, the way they came in, just the abundance of the pintails down there, that was an absolute blast. And I got to do the airboat ride too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, neat experience for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said hunt around Conway. Where do you hunt there?
There's a few places actually. One of the only private land places. One of my good friends has taken me out to go hunt a little private land section out there, really in the Mayflower area.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gone out and hunted Lake Conway quite a few times, and had a little bit of success out there, but primarily most of the time I'm hunting, it's going to be up on Dave Donaldson WMA.
I don't think it gets much better than hunting up somewhere at the Dave Donaldson, anywhere up there on Black River in Arkansas, whether you're around like Rainy Break, Dave Donaldson. That's some great hunting up there. I'd have to say Black River's been one of the more consistent rivers in the last few years as far as, it seemed like they pretty consistent with having good duck numbers on there for the most part.
Absolutely. And, they've got Lake Ashball rest area right there that's right off of the Black River, and it's really a neat experience for anyone who hasn't seen this to go up there the evening after a hunt or before a hunt and see all those birds coming out of the woods and coming into the rest area. Mm-hmm. You'll see hundreds of thousands of birds, and if you have a slow day that day, you'll still see them coming out of the woods and kind of sit there and wonder, why didn't we kill any ducks this day if there's that many coming out of the woods?
What am I doing wrong? Yeah. I've had many days like that. You're sitting there salivating, looking at all the ones coming into the rest area, but that doesn't necessarily mean that today was good or tomorrow is going to be perfect. But it always gives you that hope anyway.
That's right.
At least. So I know you started hunting with your father, Jeff. I've known your dad for a while. So when did he get you out in the woods?
Man, I mean, I think my entire life has been involved in the outdoors. Mm-hmm. And, ever since I was probably 5-6 years old, maybe even a little younger than that, had the old Red Ryder in my hand, and of course graduated, stepped up to a 22 and then started shooting 20 gauges and all that. But I think my first real duck hunting experience, and I'll never forget this, I was probably 7-8 years old, and he took me up to the cabin, and what happens at the cabin stays at the cabin.
You got that lecture early on.
Oh boy,
we don't tell mama.
That's right. If you got blood on your head, don't tell mama. But back then they didn't really have the nice kids youth waders or any of that, and so I got an old hand-me-down pair of brown rubber waders, and first day out there, I think it was probably about 20-25 degrees that morning. It was a cold morning, and boy, the ducks were just piling in. We couldn't keep them out of the hole, and limited out real early. And of course, Dad, about halfway through it, I'm sitting there just shaking, shivering those old rubber boots. And he said, "You cold, son?" I said, "No, sir."
Yeah.
And I knew from that moment on, duck hunting was going to be a major part of my life.
Yeah.
But, which, my dad for 25 plus years has worked for Ducks Unlimited. Mm-hmm. And so, that in itself really pushed us to duck hunt, and that's been a passion of his for a long time. And so I've been very fortunate and blessed to have been raised up, outside and involved with hunting and shooting sports and all that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's funny, you bring back memories of mine. I remember, being a kid, and it was like you said, you didn't have these great clothes that we had. Now I remember it was just, you wore a lot of layers of what you had. Mm-hmm. And I remember a similar story with my father. I remember hiding around the corner. I remember one morning being so cold that I actually broke down and cried as a child.
Yep.
16, 17. No, a little bit younger than that, but didn't want him to see me.
That's right.
Like hiding from him because scared he would not bring me back. And that's when you've been bitten pretty early by the bug.
Absolutely,
you're definitely wanting to do it. So what? You're doing this with the Game and Fish Foundation now. Is this following a plan? Is this something that you saw coming? When you went to college, I'm guessing?
Yep.
Where did you go to school?
I graduated from Pangburn High School and then continued education at the University of Central Arkansas.
Okay.
And I think like most kids, I decided I was going to go pre-pharmacy, mm-hmm. which I had no real strength or
Drug
background.
dealing was right
Yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah.
Something you always wanted.
Yeah. No, so of course that quickly changed after my first chemistry exam there at UCA. And, I decided to change that to a business administration major. So graduated from that. And, I've kind of been a little bit all over the place. I worked with Lowe's actually for about 4 years throughout college and a little bit after I graduated. Ended up becoming a data center solution architect or engineer for Hewlett-Packard and a company called Insight, designing data centers for the federal government and system integrators and all that. And then, one of my lifelong dreams was to really follow in the footsteps of my dad. And, I didn't know if that necessarily meant Ducks Unlimited or another conservation organization. And, I was fortunate enough every day I was searching to get in that area, and I just happened to come across one day the National Wild Turkey Federation. They had a job posting for a regional director in Arkansas, and called and through a few interviews and all that. I think there was about 30 or 40 people who had actually applied for that job, and from my experience with my dad working with Ducks Unlimited and selling raffle tickets since I've 10 years old, to people and helping set up and tear down banquets, I was able to get that job as regional director for the western half of Arkansas with NWTF.
Wow. So where was that? So you said western, so were you talking about like the Fayetteville area kind of?
Yeah, I basically, with NWTF, I was with them for about 2.5 years, and I had the full western half of Arkansas from north to south. So, all the way down to Magnolia, El Dorado, and all the way up to the Fayetteville, Springdale area.
Wow. So I'm guessing big turkey hunter as well?
Ironically, I'm not.
Okay.
Which a lot of people gave me crap about that, but my passion though is for the outdoors in general, and it's not necessarily limited to any one species, but something that I always tried to get people to make sure that they understood with supporting NWTF and any of those conservation organizations is that any of the habitat work that was done by NWTF from the funds that I helped raise in the time that I was there doesn't just benefit the wild turkey. It's also quail habitat and deer and anything across the board. And so I have killed some turkeys. My first turkey, I think I kind of messed up on the first turkey because it actually had 3 beards. For the very first turkey that I killed.
3 beards.
3 beards, yep. I think the longest one was about 8 inches, and then 4 inches, and then about a 2.5 or so.
So how are you going to top that? Right?
I mean, yeah. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah. So what'd you do with Ducks Unlimited? No, you talk about selling raffle tickets and stuff. Were you over any of those chapters, or just pretty much working with your father?
Well, of course, working with my dad, he would, especially as I got a little older, he'd say, "All right, get in the truck. We're going to a banquet up in Fayetteville or wherever it's at," and I love doing that. But during my time with University of Central Arkansas, they previously had a college chapter there, and it had died, and I kicked that thing back off, and that would have been, I think, in about 2010. 9 or 10, and I think they have still had a banquet every year since and continued to grow that chapter, which is really a cool thing for me to look back on. I try to go to it every year if I can. I need to go.
Are they doing anything this year? Are they able to? I know everything with COVID, everything's up in the air.
Man, Ducks Unlimited, NWTF, us with the foundation, we're all faced with the challenges of COVID and the restrictions of having an in-person event, and a lot of them, us included, are going to an online silent auction idea. Some are doing online raffles. We're going to be pushing out an online sweepstakes with the foundation here pretty soon too. But as far as a physical event, there's really not much going on.
I need to get involved with that because I'm an alumni of UCA as well. I got my degree in physical therapy there, and my wife is currently a professor there in the physical therapy department.
Really?
Yeah. My dad always, knowing how smart his son was, he always told me I better marry somebody a lot smarter than I was, and I was able to pull that off. So, yeah, she teaches in the PT department there, but I didn't hear until recently that they had last couple of years that they had a chapter there. I've been meaning to get down there and try to do something with them. Being an alumni, I need to come down there and do something with them, So,
absolutely.
So that would be fun. So now we talk about Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation. It was the longest time before I realized that there was a difference between the foundation and the actual commission. The commission, those are the guy actually into the enforcement of all our game and fish laws and setting up everything. So how do you distinguish that? So how would you tell someone what the difference is between foundation and commission? Yeah,
and it's a very common misconception, I guess. A lot of people do think that the commission and the foundation are the same entity. The foundation, we are actually a 501c3 nonprofit fundraising auxiliary of the commission, for the commission. And so we share a very similar logo. The foundation was started in 1982 by Stephen N. Wilson, who's a former director of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission.
Not to be confused with Wild Man.
Not Wild Man. Good buddy, good friend there. But, and so there's kind of a lot of different things that we do with the foundation. One, obviously, is to raise funds to help support the Game and Fish Commission in any way that we can, whether that be putting up match funds for a conservation project, whether that is, just supporting any of the events that they have. Of course, we do probably one of our big events that we have. There's a few events that we put on. One of those being the Arkansas Outdoor Hall of Fame Banquet, which unfortunately for this year, due to the restrictions with COVID, had to be pushed to 2021. But, in place of that, kind of what we were talking about earlier, we had to really think outside of the box. That's the main fundraiser for us for the foundation. And that's a lot of funds that we can help support the commission with as well. And so we've transitioned that to an online super silent auction that we're going to be kicking off on August 1st, running through August 29th. And boats, campers, ATVs, knives, products from Ducks Unlimited and NWTF. I mean, a lot of great things, great projects, dream hunts that you can go on.
We're not talking about trinkets here. We're talking about some cool stuff.
Really cool stuff. You want to go on a helicopter hog hunt. I mean, there's stuff all across the board. So
yeah.
But yeah, other than that, one of our main initiatives is to get not only the youth, but everyone in the state of Arkansas unplugged and engaged in the outdoors. I think we've all seen it. We've all heard it, that the number of hunters across the entire United States has gone down tremendously. I know that some people would definitely argue that fact if you're out in the woods on opening weekend of duck season. But overall, that has made a substantial negative impact on the dollars that is raised that goes to the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. And so it's more important now than ever to get people unplugged and engaged in the outdoors.
And I guess you're gauging that by license purchases and stamps and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this, going back to this raffle or this online auction silent auction that you're having, we got a lot of listeners from out of state. So, I mean, is this open to anybody? We got a listener out there in California who wants to put in a bid and buy something. He's
Absolutely.
He's eligible.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely eligible. And, for more information on that, they can go online to agff.org.
Okay.
And or agff.org/HOF, and that will take them directly to the Hall of Fame page, and click a link to the silent auction on there. So
again, it's from August the 1st through the 29th, you said.
29th.
I'm going to get on there and check some of that out.
Definitely do.
I may not air this podcast until September, just so I can something have a better chance of when. No, we wouldn't. Yeah. We wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So funding for the foundation, then, obviously you've got these events that you talked about, and then donations, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any tax funding or anything like that for this? Is there any other? You said it was 501. So there's nothing else other than donations then, for the most part, that's funding this?
Pretty much. So one of the other revenue streams for us and things that we do to help the commission is sell all of the advertisements for the hunting, fishing, trout, waterfowl, and turkey guidebooks.
Okay.
And in that, part of some of the options that you have there is to do an in-kind donation towards that for credit in the advertising
mm-hmm.
book. And so we have a few people that will do basically an in-kind donation of a boat, motor, and trailer setup from Havoc or War Eagle, or any of those other different companies, Express Boats, and that will basically go on to the silent auction, and in lieu of their dollar amount for guidebook advertisements.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sweet. So, what about, you got the ads in these regulation books? I see sometimes that you guys have got prints and things like that in there does that have to do with the foundation, or is that going to commission? Absolutely.
That's primarily the foundation. So, for instance, the duck stamp print, Deke Whitbeck, the president of the foundation, and myself and Ruth Catherine Kelly, that's the three workers for the foundation. We're the only paid staff for the foundation. But we are over selecting the artwork for this year, for that year, and also getting those prints out for sale. And I think this year we are actually going to be announcing a quail print for the Quail Stamp, and that's going to be for sale as well this year, and possibly maybe in the future looking at doing a turkey stamp print as well.
I'm not a quail hunter. I didn't know that there even was a quail stamp.
Yes, that's actually a fairly new stamp that they've put out. I can't remember the amount this year. It's either $4.50 or $9 for the quail stamp, and it's an optional thing for any hunter that wants to help support the quail program at AGFC, and the same with the turkey stamp. Mm-hmm. It's an optional stamp. So. Mm-hmm.
The quail, I don't know that much about it. I know that, I hear the older guys talking about quail hunting, and they're like, oh, man, if you could have done the quail hunting back in the day, you'd probably never be duck hunting. And I know there's still certain parts of the country where they do some great quail hunting. But what's the primary thing to improve that side of things? I mean, just habitat seems to be the biggest thing for quail. And if we could teach those stupid birds to nest in a tree instead of on the ground, it would really help a lot.
Yeah. I think that, which I'm no biologist by any means, but I kind of agree with you in thinking that it's the habitat restoration, and I think that's a major factor in that. It's funny, I was talking with my dad yesterday on the way. I was driving somewhere anyway, talking about the quail stamp and coming on this show, and he had mentioned that years and years ago, he grew up in Little Rock, but they would always come out to Greenbrier, where I live, and kill a ton of quail. And, there's still, I think there's a quail preserve out there right outside of Greenbrier going towards Damascus. But, even when we first moved back to Arkansas, I guess it would have been early 90s, moved there in Pangburn, right there on the Little Red River, I remember hearing the bobwhite
Yeah.
all the time, and you just don't hear it anymore.
Yeah.
So
Used to get into a covey or two dove hunting back in the day, but there weren't enough quail to really hunt. But occasionally you would flush some up, have a slight small heart attack. Usually you get right in the middle of them and you flush them. Doing that, but I've been on a couple of quail hunts, but never did a lot of it. So with your events that you normally have, of course, we got this, we're in this alternate universe of COVID right now, but normally what type of events are involved with the foundation?
Yeah, so of course, other than the Arkansas Outdoor Hall of Fame banquet, we've created a second banquet up in Northwest Arkansas that's kind of similar to the Outdoor Hall of Fame or any typical banquet fundraiser that you would go to. Live auction, silent auction, raffles, all that good stuff. And that kind of started out as a little bit of a friend raiser up there. It was a free entry event at first, and we just wanted to really spread the word of what the foundation is doing across the state and the impact that we make with the Game and Fish Commission. Other than that, we've got a couple of pretty big events that we put on that's geared towards kids. So one of them being the Arkansas Youth Shooting Sports Program, which we support a lot. We have a big high school trap tournament for them. This year, unfortunately, it was canceled due to COVID, but we were able to raise some funds there and do a pretty solid donation to the Arkansas Youth Shooting Sports Program, which was fantastic. And a second big event that we just had, I guess it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, was the Commissioner's Cup High School Fishing Tournament. And, typically we had originally planned that to be an event on Lake Ouachita. We're going to have it over at Safe Harbor Brady Mountain there and do the big launch and the big weigh-in, and due to the restrictions with COVID, we had to really get creative in the approach with that. We wanted to keep all the kids and parents and everyone else safe, and we're actually able to utilize this app on your phone called TourneyX. And what this does is you basically take a picture of your fish on a bump board, and instead of going off the weight of the fish, it was the length of the fish. So a little bit different, but we were able to open that up to 10 public lakes across the state of Arkansas. So, if somebody lived up in Northwest and they wanted to fish up there, they're able to do that. Or if they wanted to go down to Greer's Ferry, really a cool concept.
So any lake then?
Virtually, yeah. A list of 10 different lakes. And, we ended up having almost 100 participants in that online style tournament.
Cool.
We set up a kind of a judging table over at Trader Bill's Outdoors in Hot Springs there. And, it was really a neat process. We were sitting there, they would submit a fish through their phone. We would make sure everything was okay. It was measured correctly. And we paid out for the top 10 places with the latest fishing gear, rods, reels, tackle. Really a neat thing. We were even able to get some donations for batteries for the top 5 boat captains and all kinds of great stuff. So really a cool event.
Tell me about this Virtual X a little bit more. You've got my attention now. So this thing is measuring you're looking at the length of the fish. So are they just getting credit for length only, or is this thing somehow trying to calculate, like if you had a really fat fish, is any of that calculated in, or is it strictly length?
Strictly length.
Okay, so I'm trying to think now, if I'm a high school kid who tried to cheat at just about everything that I could, I've always said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So if I catch a gar, am I eligible? Because that's what I'm going to go for, which is pretty much just largemouth bass only.
That's it.
That sucks.
That's it.
So my gar approach wouldn't.
You'd be out on that fish.
That's pretty cool, though. That's pretty cool. So is that open? They're like, I guess the schools have fishing teams, so it's just any kid that's within a certain age group there in high school in Arkansas was eligible. Or?
Well, you'd be surprised. A ton of schools now have fishing teams.
I knew colleges did, but high school.
It is a big deal in the state of Arkansas now.
Great.
It really is great. Like I said, we had 40 plus teams that fished in this tournament. And there are teams from all over the state that participated in it. It's basically open to any of the high school, and I think this year we actually opened it up to junior high as well. But high school and junior high teams, and one of the qualifiers was that they had fished at least 3 tournaments in one of the different circuits. So I think there's 4 or 5 different high school fishing circuits across the state, and they just had to fish in at least 3 of those.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm glad to see that.
Yeah.
Glad to see that. So I know too that the Game Fish Foundation, I see different education centers or ads popping up for them, and I've been to the one over there around the River Market in Little Rock. I've toured that. That's really a cool place to go tour if you've never done that. Definitely a good place to go. So how many of those do we have in the state?
I don't know the total number of them. Of course, there's one over in Fort Smith area, and then we're actually building a new one up in northwest Arkansas in Springdale. And for that particular one, this is the first time it's been done with us. The foundation is actually helping fund that full new nature center. It's a J.B. and John L. Hunt Ozark Highlands Nature Center, I think is the full name of it. But they're all great places for people to come in and explore and kind of get some history of hunting and fishing in the state of Arkansas and things like that. But one of the big things, like with this one in northwest Arkansas, they're going to have a full 3D archery range indoors, a BB gun range for the kids, a very cool interactive walk through, nature center itself. And then there's going to be an outdoor archery range where you're kind of walking through like you would a golf course. And have a quail preserve out there and a lot of different things. It's a neat place, and I think that's scheduled to open here in October of this year.
Sounds awesome. I need to get up there and see that.
It's pretty neat.
I need to take my little girl up there and let her see it.
Absolutely.
I think I've got a Disney princess. I don't know that I've got a hunter, but I'm still I'm hopeful. I'll take her up there and we'll see what she thinks.
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds like it's got all the high tech stuff. She'll be interested in taking a look at it. So that's awesome. Now we talked about the fishing. I know one thing too that's gotten huge with our youngsters is the trap shooting teams. I mean, even here locally in Searcy, Arkansas, where we're at, some of the surrounding areas here, I know they've got some great trap shooting teams in some of the surrounding communities. So I guess you guys, that's something else that you're involved with as well, correct?
Absolutely. So, that program in the state of Arkansas is called the Arkansas Youth Shooting Sports Program, AYSSP, ran by Jimmy Self. He's a fantastic guy and extremely passionate about getting kids out, getting them shooting, and feeling comfortable with firearms and all that, which, of course, at the end of the day, a lot of times leads to getting them hunting and fishing and everything else. So, we fully support that program. Like I said, we do the high school trap tournament through the AYSSP program and, support that in any other way that we can, whether it's through a monetary donation, to the program or just helping support at some of their events. So,
So the couple other things, like I don't think you guys put this on, but I've seen you guys have had a presence at least, like the Big Buck Classic. I don't even know. Hopefully we'll get to have the Big Buck Classic this year. I think it's probably a huge if they hadn't made a decision, I'm sure it's nothing more than a question mark at this point.
Yeah.
But so what, like last year, what'd you guys do? What'd you guys have set up there? You had something for kids there as well.
Absolutely. And, Tommy and Catherine Murchison are really great people. They kind of put on the Big Buck Classic. They wanted to create, an even better experience for the kids other than everything that they already have out there. And so one of the buildings that they had, instead of putting some booths in there, they said, here, guys, we want you to have this entire building filled up full of stuff for the kids.
Wow.
And so we had a 3D archery shoot. We had a hoverball archery shoot in there. We had
hoverball archery. What is that?
There's basically it's kind of an inflatable setup, and it's got air pockets shooting up, and there's some different size round balls just floating in the air.
Uh-huh.
These kids are grabbing a bow and arrow and shooting that thing out of the air. It's it was a cool experience. And then we had the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers out there, and the NWTF BB gun range for kids to shoot at. And then one of the biggest features that we had out there, we had a guy come down. I don't even know what state he was from. He was from pretty far up north. Brought down a huge fishing pond that we set up indoors, and the Game and Fish Commission was nice enough to come out and stock that pond full of rainbow trout. And we had, I think, 20 little rod setups that were all around there, and I don't know how many kids went in and caught their first fish.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole experience there at the Big Buck Classic was really great, and really showed true what our mission is: getting kids unplugged and engaged in the outdoors. I couldn't tell you how many kids came through there, but really how many kids it was their first time to shoot a BB gun, to catch a fish, to shoot a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And the smiles on their faces was just really unbelievable.
That's something that we take for granted so much, and we've talked about it on this show, the heritage with hunting.
Yeah.
And most of us, you included, myself, it's our fathers that get us involved in it. It's a family thing that we're just born into. We get a chance to do it. We don't realize as kids how fortunate we are. We don't understand it until we get older, and you start looking around. I know my father, took a lot of my friends on their first duck hunt. They came, spent the night with me, and then we went hunting the next morning. It was their first introduction to it as well. But sometimes we forget, that there are just so many kids. They're not going to get any exposure. You guys you're giving some exposure to kids and some opportunities to kids that are not getting it in any other way.
That's right.
And like you said, for this, for our heritage here with hunting and fishing to continue, I mean, it's obviously it's through these kids. It's the next generation. And I worry a lot about what's it going to be like, when I've got a daughter 6 years old, when she's older, how much of that generation is going to know the outdoors and be able to enjoy and appreciate the things that we do. It's really glad to see the foundation doing that. And how do you I hear a lot of negative comments, of course. Gosh, man, I can't imagine being with the Game and Fish Commission or even the foundation like you guys. We hunters are never happy. And we see decisions, regulations passed through Game and Fish that some we agree with, some we disagree with. You're never going to make everybody happy. And that being said, I've seen a lot of things that I wasn't happy with, things that I disagreed with. But at the same time, I understand that there's a bigger picture that I'm not seeing. There's decisions that have to be made. I know that, I don't agree with everything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm always 100% right. I'm never wrong, obviously. I'm never 100% wrong, but or at least we're not gonna call it that.
Right.
But how do you respond? I mean, you see people? I've heard people say, "Oh man, we got an education center going in, and man, we could have spent that on improving this hunting over here. We could have done this or done something different." I mean, when you deal with that negativity, how do you deal with that? I mean, how do you pretty much approach that?
Yeah, at the end of the day, the nature center, that's always something that's brought up to us. One thing that a lot of people don't know about, like say the new nature center that's going up in Northwest Arkansas, is that I think it's 70-80% of that was raised through private funds. Mm-hmm. Don't quote me on that number, but
somewhere around
a majority of the funds raised was done through the foundation, through the efforts of Deke doing a capital campaign up there, and at the end of the day, we have to have those type of facilities. Mm-hmm. Talking about, you take your daughter up there, I'll take my son up there, different things like that. It's important that we not only get kids outdoors and involved in hunting and fishing and shooting sports and all that, but that's an easy transition into that. Mm-hmm. Take a kid to that nature center where they can press a button and hear the sound of a bear, or whatever it may be, and maybe spark some interest there. Mm-hmm. And not only that, it's go out and shoot your bow. Mm-hmm. Take your kid to shoot a BB gun for the first time, things like that. But overall, kind of going back to your question as far as you just can't make everyone happy with any rule or regulation, and I don't really per se have any say over any of that type thing, the regulations, but I will say that I have been in the room with the commissioners when they are voting on some very tough issues and things that we're facing across the state. And, you got to keep in mind all the commissioners, great men and women, they're people just like you and I. Mm-hmm. And those decisions that are made are not an easy decision. Mm-hmm. If anyone is interested in seeing in any of that, all of those meetings are actually streamed online. So if you want to see the kind of back and forth talk of any regulation changes and things that they vote on there, you're able to see that live. And I think that really might help a lot of people understand the decision-making process that they go through for those regulations. And, even myself, of course, I've grown up hunting and fishing and always, of course, supported the Game and Fish Commission and the foundation and everybody else. But, up to a point, they would release a change in direction or a new law or something that they want you to abide by. And, I didn't know any of the backlog behind it. I didn't know the reasoning behind anything. And so I would recommend anybody to watch those meetings. And whenever COVID lifts, you'll be able to attend those meetings again at the AGFC headquarters. So,
when I see these arguments popping up, different regulations passed, maybe by the commission, different policies that we have here in Arkansas, and everything erupts. And I find myself sometimes on the angry camp. Sometimes I find myself on the, hey, settle down camp, relax. The one thing that always stands out to the bottom line to me, and I think this is so cool, is that this shows me how passionate Arkansans are about hunting and fishing, because like I said, nobody's going to be happy. You're not going to make everyone happy all the time. Yeah. But when I see that, sometimes I'm shaking my head, sometimes I'm shaking it no, sometimes I'm shaking it yes. But I think it's really cool how passionate the hunters and fishermen are in this state. We're so blessed to be from this state, to be able to do the things we do here in Arkansas, and to see that passion. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, like say football in Alabama. You got Nick Saban can win a couple national championships. The next one he's in the championship game and they lose. Mm-hmm. And then you got a guy in Alabama saying, fire his ass.
That's right.
We got to
That's right.
We got to get a new coach in here. Yep. You're just like, wow, I can't believe the passion that these guys have, which can border insanity. And I don't think we see that quite maybe so much with our football team. If we do, we'd all be jumping off a bridge after the last couple of years. Yeah. But the passion is there.
Absolutely.
It means so much to so many people, and I really think that that's cool. So, does the foundation have anything to do with any of the actual the management areas, the land areas, any involvement there with the actual hunting properties that we're dealing with?
So not necessarily any of the WMAs or things like that. We do actually own Potlatch Education Center. The foundation owns that property, as well as the Fredberry Conservation Center. So Potlatch is near Casco, Arkansas. Really cool property. I think over there we've got about 80 acres with a lodge on there, homestead, and some other things. Properties like that we own and maintain, and of course pay insurance and all that good stuff on. Those two properties really allow a lot of cool things. So, for instance, the one over at Potlatch, Will Hafner, great guy. He's kind of over that area. We take kids out for their first squirrel hunts out there.
So they get to hunt that property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's not open for adults.
Okay.
You or I couldn't go out and hunt it. But there's a lot of youth hunts out there.
Yeah.
There's youth fishing. There's veteran hunts, I think, some out there, and some handicap fishing opportunities out there on that body of water. And then, looking at the property over at Yellville, the Fredberry Conservation Area, I think that's 420 acres of property out there. Kind of a similar setup. There's a Crooked Creek, I think is what it is, that goes around that. There's about 2.5 miles of frontage there on Crooked Creek. There's a trap range that, local youth teams, high school teams through the AYSSP program are actually able to go out and shoot out there. So really a neat thing that we were able to do, and kind of accept that donation and then turn it over to the commission for them to utilize to its fullest extent.
Yeah, that's cool. Good place for the kids to get out and do something. Now, what about, I know, like, shooting-wise, Trap Scott, we talked about it being so huge. One of the best places I hear, and I have not been there yet, the best places to shoot's over in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that the actual city of Jacksonville has something to do with that. Is the foundation involved at all with that, or is that just pretty much through the city?
Well, so the foundation raised the funds to get that thing put up.
Okay.
And if you ever go out there, you'll see all of the different sponsors. People sponsored one of the shooting lanes or whatever. A lot of great sponsors from all across the state sponsored to put money together to build that thing. Once it was built and finished, keys were handed over to the city of Jacksonville, and they actually run that range. But it is still known as the Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation Shooting Sports Complex.
Okay, so you guys named, okay.
Yeah, we've got the big sign on the front of the building.
Yeah.
And, we utilize that place as much as we can.
Yeah.
It is really truly a top-notch facility.
That's what I've heard. I need to get out there for several reasons. Number one, I want to see it. Number two, the way I shot last year during duck season, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I need to definitely get out there and polish a little bit. Hopefully they'd have an instructor or somebody out there that could help me just a little bit. Say, hey, man.
Oh, the crew out there, they really are great to work with. As soon as you walk in the door, you're met with a smile, and they will help you in any way that they can. But one of the primary reasons that the foundation wanted to get that going is for us in the state to have the ability to host collegiate level trap tournaments. Mm-hmm. And that's a facility that can handle that.
Yeah. And
so it's really, like I said, a great place, and definitely need to check it out.
Yeah, awesome. All right, now I'm change change gears a little bit here. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Every guest we get in here, I try to get some kind of a funny story out of them. I want to hear some funny hunting stories. You know, we sit around the campfire. That's what we do. We swap funny hunting stories. So you got anything for us? If you don't, fine. You got anything that you can share?
Oh, man. Yeah. There's quite a few that I have, probably a few of them that I can't tell on here. But, you know, I've been married to my wife, Jennifer, for 5 years. We have an awesome 4-year-old son. And back in the old dating days with Jennifer, her name's Jennifer Lawrence, by the way, kind of like the movie star.
Okay.
You know,
yeah.
kind of a big deal. But anyway, love her to death. Greatest things ever happened to me. But anyway, when we were dating, she always said that, you know, she was a big hunter and she fished. And I'm like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm in love.
That's it. Yeah. That's all you had to say, you know? And so she had gone deer hunting a few times with her dad, and we were able to take her out on her first dove hunt and duck hunts and all that. There's kind of two things with her. One was the inaugural dove hunt. We do a dove hunt every year over at Sweet Home with a great family friend of ours, and Jennifer was out that morning, and you know, Dad and I had worked with her on shooting a shotgun and getting really comfortable with it, and loaded up that shotgun. I said, babe, there's 3 shells in this gun. If you see a dove, she wasn't the greatest shot. I said, if you see a dove, you pull that trigger 3 times until you see something fall. And so we're all kind of waiting in the line, you know, dove flew by. First shot, boom, she knocked it down. She walks out to go grab that thing, and of course, you know, they'll flutter a little bit after being shot if it's not graveyard dead.
Right.
And she was probably about 6 feet away from it, and it kind of gave a little flutter on the wings. And we saw her grab that old shotgun and point that down. And my dad and I both at the same time are saying, no. And she
finished him off on the ground with the gun.
Yeah, there wasn't much meat left on that dove there. But I think my favorite story with that is taking her out to the Black River and the true cabin experience, you know, for a flooded timber duck hunt. And so the water was pretty low out on the WMA where our hole is that year. And, you know, we had to get out and push the levee boat back and you know, kind of deal with that. It was about, 50 degrees outside that day. I mean, pretty warm day. Jennifer had a 4-in-1 coat on and the waders and sweatpants and all that.
Prepared for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking she's going to be having to take that off here pretty quick. She's out there shivering all day. And I swear to you, this was probably one of the best duck hunts I've ever gone on my entire life. I mean, we're, 7:45, 8 o'clock. We had all the decoys and everything back in the boat heading back to the cabin because we had limited out. And she was still just shivering cold. She said, I'm going to walk the boat back with you. And I said, no, you had never walked in flooded timber before. And so we start walking back there, and of course, she wouldn't listen to me, wouldn't get in the boat. And about, 100 feet later, she's walking, and I turn around, and I swear to you, Brad, she was falling in slow motion in that water. And, of course, all she had to do was just stand up, but she just kind of fell in that water, got completely soaked, and just kind of sat there for a second. Finally, my dad was standing right behind her. He picked her up out of that water, and that was the first time she was baptized in the Black River there.
Baptism.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. Well, it tells me 2 things. The first story that you told about her finishing that dove off tells me that you better walk the line.
Oh, that's right.
Because I don't think she sounds like a lady that might finish you off
Yep.
too if you get out of line.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, now this is when you guys were you married or dating at the point where she fell?
I think we were still dating then.
Okay, that's love. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, my my lovely wife is not a hunter. She don't want to go. She's like getting up early and staying out in cold weather is just not gonna. That's not her bag. She
Right.
She wants no point in it. If I took her out and she fell in the water or something like that, we would not be married today. So the fact that you guys are married with a child, that tells me a lot about her. Glad to hear she was baptized. Will she still go with you?
Absolutely not.
Not? That was
No,
it?
that was the
end of it?
We got back to the cabin and boy, she sat in front of that heater for about 2 hours just shivering, and finally I don't think she even went hunting the next day. We got back home and she said, I think I'll let duck hunting be your thing.
There you go. There you go. Well, Jennifer, if you're listening to this, being a good sport here, hearing these stories that he's telling about you, you're invited to come on here anytime you want to, because we'd love to hear some dirt on Tyler as well. And I'd love to get some on his father, Jeff, good friend of mine. So if you got some dirt, if you want a little bit of revenge, you just contact us. We'll get you on the podcast, and revenge can be yours. Yeah. So just let us know. But man, that's great. And again, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely.
We really enjoyed sitting here and visiting with you. And I think the thing that stands out through everything that we've talked about today, I love everything that you guys do, especially with the kids. What you're promoting with the youth here. Thinking about the future, as we talked about earlier, with these kids, and getting some of these guys out, and we've talked about that with here on this show, and to all the people listening. We bring the heritage through our own families, but you know what, guys? Let's make a point to take some kids. Let's identify some kids that do not have the same opportunities, have not had the same blessings that we have had being raised in the outdoors, and let's get some of these youngsters outside. I know the youth hunts that the Game and Fish do here, and I'm sure in just about every state they have this. Anytime there's a youth hunt, gather up some youngsters. Let's get them out there. Let's introduce them to the outdoors. Let's show them, just gun safety, and so much of what we see. You talk about firearms, and it's negative. Man, we can't get these kids around guns, and God forbid we see a school shooting. Getting more of these kids involved, teaching them firearm safety, getting them involved in positive things like hunting. Man, that's our future, and let's make a point to do that. Let's give back to these sports that have been so good to us. So really appreciate what you guys do, and man, appreciate you coming and making the trip down here to be with us. Now we're sitting at a card table. We got to do this with every episode. I think I won the last one. I've been getting beat quite a bit here lately, but we'll shuffle these out. We're gonna have a little quick game of war here. You want cut the cards? All right. So high card wins, and we'll discuss how much money we're playing for after we see who wins. What you got?
Now hold on, don't look at yours yet.
Okay.
Let's see here. Let me ask you this.
All right.
You want to trade?
Don't trade.
Yeah. Bring a new aspect here.
That is a new aspect to it. Do I want to trade? I'm thinking about some of the stories that you told me here. I don't know that you can be trusted too much. Yeah, I do want to trade.
All right. Let's see what we got. That was a good trade.
Daggum, man. He tricked me, man. He tricked me. 7-6. Yeah, cheated me out of it. No, man. Thanks for being here. And guys, for anybody that wants to contribute to the Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation, how do they go about doing
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up. There's a few different ways. One is to become a member of the foundation, and that's something that I didn't really touch on here, but we are a member-driven organization. So you can go to agff.org, click on Join tab, and there's membership levels starting at $35 and going up. For $35, you can get one of these caps just like this in the Mossy Oak Bottomlands. Other ways, of course, support our online silent auction that we're pushing out for our Hall of Fame banquet. And, there's any other opportunity to give. So visit us at agff.org, or give me a call or shoot me an email at tyler@agff.org.
All right, great deal. I want to make sure that I've got my membership going, and I'm going to check out that online auction because that sounds like some awesome prizes.
Yes,
right
sir.
There. All right,
yes,
man.
sir.
Thanks a lot, man.
Hey,
Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, great time.